Hello students. Uh, now I'm going to discuss the mechanism of hormone action. This is the only topic left in the chemical coordination chapter. Okay, the mechanism of hormone action, how the hormones act in our cells. Okay, and how they helps in controlling the various functions of the cell. Okay. So first of all, we have to see two things, that there are two types of cells, hormones there in our body. Okay, what are those? Number one, I'm writing here. One is peptide hormones. Peptide hormones. Okay, this is one type of hormone. Another hormone is steroid hormone. Okay, steroid hormones. So peptide hormone and steroid hormone. Okay, so this peptide hormone and steroid hormone, this peptide hormones means protein hormones. Okay, these are also, we call it as protein hormones. Okay, the special property with the hormone is that these hormones are lipid insoluble hormones. Lipid insoluble hormones. Okay, and these steroid hormones, these are lipid soluble hormones. Lipid soluble hormones. Okay, now these hormones which are lipid insoluble hormones, okay, they are water soluble. Okay, water soluble but lipid insoluble hormones. Okay, now let us see, suppose it's a cell membrane. I'm going to talk about cell membrane. Okay, cell membrane, because in our body the hormones needs to pass through the cell membrane, because they needs to go to the target cell to function, right? So suppose this is a cell membrane I'm drawing here. Okay, and the hormones, suppose now let's talk about this peptide hormones or protein hormones first. Let's talk. Okay, see, now when the hormone comes towards its target cell, the first problem it faces is that the cell membrane, which is a lipid bilayer model. Okay, now this lipid bilayer model, so it is mainly made up of lipids, but these proteins, hormones, which are lipid insoluble hormones. So if they are like this, they cannot pass through this lipid membrane, lipid cell membrane. Okay, so now how then they will enter into their target cell? So the property is that the peptide hormones, they do not enter into the cell, because they cannot enter, because they are lipid insoluble. Okay, so in this kind of hormones, there is a special receptor cells which are present uh, on the cell surface. Okay, a special receptor cells which are present here in on the cell surface. Okay, now these receptor cells, they receive these hormones. Okay, for example, this is the hormone, okay, which received by the receptor cell, and they form a hormone receptor complex. So you can say it is a hormone receptor complex. Okay, now what happens, this complex, okay, it activates the enzyme system. Okay, especially there is an enzyme is adenyl cyclase enzyme. Okay, adenyl cyclase is the enzyme. Okay, this enzyme is activated by this complex, hormone receptor complex. Okay, once this enzyme gets activated, what it does, it converts the ATP into the cyclic AMP at the inner membrane of the cell. This is the inner membrane. Okay, this is the inner membrane of the cell. Okay, this is the part where inner membrane of the cell. So this enzyme, okay, it is actually activating the ATP into cyclic AMP. P. Understood? So now what happens here, once this is done, okay, this cyclic AMP, now this is act as a you can say second messenger. Second messenger. Who is the first messenger? This you can say that this hormone is itself is the first messenger. Okay, this hormone is the first because it brings the information, and as it cannot enter into the cell, this story happens, and now the cyclic AMP act as second messenger. Now what it does is it goes inside the cell and it activates again a set of enzyme system in the cell, inside the cell, enzyme system inside the cell. Okay, so which ultimately activate different cell machinery, cellular machinery. So it activates different cellular machinery, that actually I am talking about the different cell organelles, okay, which ultimately helps in express or perform specific function. Okay, so this is how, without entering into the cell, this hormone, okay, activating, and this enzyme activating process is a cascading process through different steps of biochemical reaction, which ultimately activate this cellular machinery and which ultimately helps in expressing this function. Okay, so this is how they perform function, this peptide hormones. Understood? Now these steroid hormones are lipid soluble hormones. Okay, so in this case there is no problem to enter inside the membrane, so these steroid hormones easily enter inside the cell, directly go to the target tissue, okay, and it activates the enzyme system. And one thing is that these hormones, they can directly get binds to the, there are in case of these steroid hormones, this doesn't work actually. What happens, intracellular receptor, okay, they directly binds with the intracellular receptor. For example, this is a intracellular receptor, okay, this hormone comes and bind easily, okay, and this complex, now intracellular complex, now it can directly go and bind with the DNA specific sequence, okay, which ultimately directs to secrete to transcribe special mRNA, and which ultimately, okay, controls producing specific proteins which ultimately perform, or you can say express function. Understood? So these steroid hormones directly influence the DNA, attaching with the DNA and producing specific mRNA to produce control over the production of specific protein, which ultimately helps in controlling the expression of the the specific cell. Okay, so there is no problem with the steroid cell. The problem is with the peptide hormone. So they need to undergo this enzyme activating different steps, cascading process, okay, and which ultimately activates the cellular machinery to express its function. Okay, from the surface level only, it needs to come with the help of this enzyme, which is very important, okay, adenyl cyclase, which ultimately activates converting ATP into cyclic AMP, and cyclic AMP then doing the stepwise functions, then stepwise cascading process, okay, activating different enzyme system, which ultimately trigger the cellular machinery to perform its function. Okay, this is how in our body the peptide hormones or protein hormones and steroid hormones, even along with the steroid hormone, thyroid hormone also you can include here. Even thyroid hormones also perform function in our body in the same way. Understood this? So this is a different way to perform actions in our body. Okay, it's a very small but very interesting topic, very important also. Okay, I hope you understood this. Okay, I request you, a lot of you to go through this video again and again, and if any question, doubts there in your mind, we can discuss in the class. Okay, thank you so much for watching the video.